Honourable Mary Ann Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to rise to speak in the second reading, the committee stages of this bill, and I rise having been conferred with a new status, it would seem, today by the Minister of Māori Affairs, and I rise to speak as a native of New Zealand, and I'm pondering on that and what its various combinations and permutations and interpretations might mean for me. However, I will work my way through that in due course, and I dare say there are a number of other people around the country who might have been watching Question Time who are reflecting on their status as a native of Aotearoa, New Zealand. So, with that novel approach, I want to discuss a number of things, and obviously because we are treating this as a whole question, as I understand, Mr. Chair, I'm able to address part two as much as any other part. First of all, Mr. Chair, I welcome the comments of the Speaker from the ACT Party, not because they were inherently worthwhile, although some of them probably were, but in part because it was a much better speech than I thought it was going to be, because we were treated to some fairly despicable comments by the ACT Party last week when this Waikato-Tainui Raupatu claims bill appeared for the first time before this House. And so the reference to hocus pocus and to that categorising of another worldview, I thought was disrespectful and unfortunate at the very least, and despicable at worst. And at that time I said, Mr. Chair, that while I do not have or share or was born into the same ontological perspective or worldview that Māori have, that doesn't stop me from appreciating it, appreciating an ontology that is different from my own. However, one of the things that I do celebrate in appreciating different ontologies and different worldviews is that this piece of legislation actually sets down in black and white some very significant and unique pieces of language that would be found nowhere else in the world. And I think that is significant and should be brought to the attention of this House. So, for example, in Part 2, in the Statement of Significance of Waikato River to Waikato-Tainui, it says, the Waikato River is our tupuna, and it's translated in brackets as ancestor, which has mana, in brackets, spiritual authority and power, and in turn represents the mana and mauri, in brackets, life force, of Waikato-Tainui. The Waikato River is a single, indivisible being that flows from Te Taheke Huka Huka to Te Puaha o Waikato, the mouth, and includes its waters, banks and beds and all minerals under them, and its streams, waterways, tributaries, lakes, aquatic fisheries, and so on. And it goes on to say, as well as its metaphysical being. Our relationship with the Waikato River and our respect for it gives rise to our responsibilities to protect te mana o te awa and to exercise our mana whakahaere in accordance with long-established tikanga to ensure the well-being of the river. Our relationship with the river and our respect for it lies at the heart of our spiritual and physical well-being and our tribal identity and culture. Now that is to be celebrated, Mr. Chairman. That is to be celebrated, that kind of characterisation, that kind of description of a relationship that is from a different ontology,
The Honourable
Mr.
Marianne
Chair.
Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That is from an ontology which is not universally shared, but may be appreciated as part of the foundation of this nation. And I do understand what it means to be a native of Aotearoa New Zealand as a partner in Te Tiriti. I do understand that. And I recognise that this is the way, in fact, that Indigenous people may achieve recognition, status, respect, legal recognition, accord, and in this case, authority over a natural resource. And I welcome that, Mr. Chairman. I think it is part of where we have come in our journey in working through treaty settlements. I did say last week that I thought that the co-management model that is in Part 2 of this bill was unique. I in fact have since read something that the Minister wrote a little while ago where he was quoted as saying that it isn't unique, that in fact in the 1990s the national government had a similar co-management model with Ngāti Whātua or Ōrākei and the Michael Joseph Savage Memorial at Bastion Point or Takaparawa in Auckland, and that there was a co-management model between the Auckland City Council, I think, and Ngāti Whātua. So if this is not unique, I still consider it to be an evolutionary development of the kinds of solutions that may be found for the modern day. So as we proceed through treaty settlements and as new issues emerge, because they will, and they are, then we can find novel ways of addressing it. The other point I just want to make, Mr. Chair, is in Part 9 of this bill, and I think again this is important to bring to the attention not only of the House but to the New Zealand public. The title above Clause 9 is Te Turi Whai Mana. So that is, as I understand it, the rule of the authority of this model. And it says the scope and vision of the strategy, and it recognises right at the outset the Waikato River and its contribution to New Zealand's cultural, social, environmental and economic well-being is of national importance. And that, Mr. Chair, is something for everybody. That is something for Māori and Pākehā alike. The Waikato River and what it contributes to one of the most fertile and productive parts of Aotearoa New Zealand is of economic significance and importance to everybody, but so it is also important to New Zealand's cultural, social and environmental well-being. And that is the stuff that underpins this legislation. I want to congratulate the Select Committee. There's been a number of amendments, and I notice also a supplementary order paper dated today in the name of the Minister, I presume. So there are some some small details that require a little bit of amendment still. But I think the work that the Select Committee has done on this has been very significant, and I wish to congratulate them on that. But what we have in this bill, I think, are a number of landmarks and signals and signs in this co-management authority model that can be used for future settlements and can be used as issues arise and as our partnership under the Treaty of Waitangi matures and develops and evolves over the next century. So, Mr. Chair, I think this has been and is a significant